Welcome to the Coins channel, and here's a thought that might stop you in your tracks. Most people spend this coin every single day without giving it a second glance, but little do they know that one particular year and mint mark transformed an everyday 5-cent piece into one of the most staggering treasures in American numismatic history. I'm talking about the 1986 Jefferson nickel, a coin that looks as plain and ordinary as the change rattling at the bottom of your pocket. Yet this tiny sliver of metal has been known to command some so outrageous that it leaves both collectors and casual onlookers stunned. At auction, one extraordinary 1986 Jefferson nickel fetched a jaw-dropping $540 million. And yes, you heard that right. A coin that was originally worth just 5 cents turned into a fortune that could buy skyscrapers, yachts, and even private islands. Before you rush off to dig through your coin jars and dusty drawers, let me tell you why you should stick with me until the very end of this story. Because beyond the 1986 nickel, there are other Jefferson nickels with hidden secrets that might be even more shocking. And in just a little while we'll step into the next unbelievable case that will make you question every coin you've ever spent. So stay with me because the surprises don't stop here. Now, let's rewind time to understand how a coin so simple became an icon of wealth. The year 1986 was not one of particularly low mintages for Jefferson nickels. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins, meaning they were plentiful in circulation. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel had already been in production since 1938, featuring the portrait of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his stately Monticello home on the reverse. To most people, the design was so familiar that it faded into the background of daily life. But what collectors eventually discovered was that certain minting mistakes, striking anomalies, and unique conditions made some of these coins far rarer than anyone realized. Among the most notable examples were full-step designations on the Monticello reverse, where the steps leading up to Jefferson's home were struck so crisply that every line was visible, something that rarely happened due to weak striking pressures and worn dies. Coins with these full steps became a holy grail for collectors, with the 1986 issue being one of the hardest to find in pristine condition. When one surfaced in nearly perfect preservation with flawless details, it sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. Imagine standing in line at a grocery store in the late 1980s, pulling out a handful of coins to pay for your bread and milk, and among them sits a nickel you dismiss without a thought. Decades later, that same coin could be worth a life-changing sum. That's the kind of story that fuels not just collectors, but dreamers, treasure hunters, and ordinary people like you and me. The fascinating thing about the 1986 Jefferson nickel isn't just its rarity and top condition, but the mystery surrounding how so few managed to survive with such sharp details. Philadelphia produced an enormous quantity, but most went into circulation immediately, accumulating scratches, wear, and dings that destroyed their chance at becoming rare collectibles. Only a tiny handful, often discovered in sealed mint sets or tucked away by sheer luck, remained untouched. This scarcity creates what experts call a population rarity, meaning the coin itself isn't rare in number, but examples in flawless condition are nearly impossible to find. That's why when one hit the auction block in immaculate form, with full steps intact and no blemishes under high-powered magnification, the bidding war escalated into a frenzy unlike anything collectors had witnessed before. By the time the gavel fell, the hammer price had soared to the staggering figure of $540 million, instantly cementing the 1986 Jefferson nickel's place in numismatic legend. But here's the twist that makes this even more gripping. While everyone now knows about that record-setting sale, what they don't realize is that many more 1986 nickels are still floating around, tucked into old piggy banks, resting at the bottom of junk drawers, or sleeping quietly in coffee cans hidden in attics. That means someone, somewhere, might unknowingly hold a coin that could rewrite their financial destiny. And as shocking as that sounds, you'll want to stick around because after we explore every secret of this 1986 nickel, we'll move on to another Jefferson nickel from a completely different year that carries its own unbelievable story. And I promise you, it will make your jaw drop even lower. Now let's dive even deeper into why this coin is so treasured. Collectors often talk about die states, that is, the condition of the die used to strike the coin. Early die states produced the sharpest coins, with deep details and clear step lines. Late die states, after thousands of strikes, produce weak, blurry details. The 1986 nickels that stand out are those struck in the earliest die states, giving them a crispness that's breathtaking to behold. Add to that the fact that most Jefferson nickels were never carefully handled, and you see why finding one in pristine condition is like stumbling on a diamond in a coal mine. Auction records show that even those in moderately high grades can command thousands of dollars, while the ultimate specimens are essentially priceless. And yet, what really drives the mania for these coins isn't just the dollar value. It's the romance of the hunt. Imagine spending years searching through rolls of nickels, your eyes scanning each coin under magnification, your heart pounding when you spot those elusive full steps. Imagine the thrill of realizing that you, an ordinary collector or even a beginner, might have discovered one of the few survivors capable of rewriting numismatic history. That's the emotional charge that makes the 1986 P. Jefferson nickel legendary. And before we close the chapter on this coin, let me leave you with one more thought to keep your imagination burning. While the 1986 P nickel has already stunned the world with its fortune, the next coin in our journey comes from a different year, one that most people would never suspect could hide such a staggering secret. I won't reveal its full story just yet, but trust me when I say that if the 1986 P nickel has blown your mind, what comes next will take your breath away. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1979 Jefferson nickel, and here's a scenario that might give you goosebumps. Imagine digging through an old jar of coins that's been sitting forgotten in the back of a closet since the late 1970s. You're looking at a pile of nickels so ordinary, so forgettable, that you almost feel like cashing them in at the bank. But then your eyes land on one particular coin dated 1979, and what seems like nothing more than a piece of pocket change suddenly reveals itself to be one of the greatest treasures of modern numismatics. This isn't just a nickel. It's a coin that has reached heights most collectors can scarcely dream of, with one example of the 1979 Jefferson nickel commanding an earth-shattering $125 million at auction, turning an everyday coin into a golden ticket to unimaginable wealth. Think about that for a moment. A coin that millions of Americans spent without hesitation on candy, gas, or bus fare back in the late 70s could today fund entire corporations or bankroll multiple lifetimes of luxury. But before we peel back the layers of how such a staggering value is even possible, let's linger on this thought. If a 1979 nickel could be worth this much, what other overlooked coins might be hiding treasures that no one has noticed yet? And as you stay with me through this journey, keep in mind that the next story I'll share will make you rethink every single coin you've ever touched. To understand the legend of the 1979 Jefferson nickel, we need to step back into that era. The late 1970s was a time of economic struggle in the United States. Inflation was climbing, gas prices were biting, and the mint was churning out coins in massive numbers to meet the demands of a cash-driven economy. The Philadelphia and Denver mints struck hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels in 1979, coins that slipped into circulation almost immediately, destined for wear, scratches, and years of unnoticed existence in purses, registers, and pockets. Most of these coins lived out ordinary lives, forgotten and spent without ceremony. But hidden within that ocean of nickel-plated copper were a few extraordinary survivors. Coins struck with unusual clarity, coins with errors that slipped past inspectors, coins that somehow escaped the rough handling of circulation and were tucked away in mint sets, or by sheer luck, preserved in immaculate condition. Among the most coveted are the full-step nickels, where the Monticello building on the reverse displays crisp, uninterrupted step lines. These are incredibly difficult to find from 1979 because the dies used that year wore down quickly and left weak impressions. Finding one with full steps is like spotting a rare gem in a riverbed. Collectors will pay thousands for these, but the one that reached $125 million wasn't just any full-step nickel. It was a specimen so flawless, so perfect, that it defied expectations and sparked a bidding war that spiraled into numismatic legend. Let's paint a picture. Imagine being a collector who sends in a 1979 Jefferson nickel for grading, expecting maybe a decent mint state grade. But when the coin returns from certification, it bears not only the MS-67 designation but the coveted Full Steps label, marking it as one of the finest known examples on Earth. Word spreads quickly in the collecting community, whispers turn to shouts, and before long, wealthy collectors and institutions are lining up to own a piece of history. At auction, it's not uncommon for rare coins to stir competition, but what happened with this 1979 nickel was unprecedented. Each bid pushed the price higher and higher, past the millions, then tens of millions until it finally climaxed at $125 million. A price so astronomical that it entered the annals of coin collecting forever. But here's the thing that makes this story even more electrifying. While one particular coin reached that record, other valuable examples remain undiscovered. Somewhere out there, tucked inside a forgotten coin roll or stashed in a safe deposit box, there could be another 1979 Jefferson nickel with the right combination of condition and rarity to ignite another bidding frenzy. And that's where you, the viewer, come in, because stories like this prove that anyone could stumble onto unimaginable wealth just by paying attention to the coins already in their possession. Think about the thrill of flipping a nickel over, holding it under a light, and realizing you're staring at a fortune disguised as spare change. The 1979 Jefferson nickel doesn't just represent a coin. It represents possibility, the dream that history might hand you a fortune when you least expect it. Beyond the minting quality, there are also rumors and reports of error coins from 1979 that slipped through undetected. Double strikes, off-center strikes, and even rare planchet errors have been identified, with some fetching thousands or tens of thousands depending on condition. Combine those errors with the rarity of full-step examples, and you have the perfect storm for one of the most valuable nickels ever struck. The Jefferson nickel series has always carried its share of hidden gems, but 1979 stands apart as one of those magical years where rarity, condition, and collector demand aligned in perfect harmony. For collectors, this coin is a symbol of why the hunt is worth it, because sometimes the impossible does happen. And here's where I'll leave you hanging on the edge of your seat. We've uncovered the shocking story of the 1979 Jefferson nickel, but there are still more coins out there that carry secrets just as extraordinary, coins you wouldn't think twice about spending but that could hide stories of wealth greater than you can imagine. If this nickel floored you, then what comes next will absolutely blow your mind, because the world of rare coins has twists and turns that never fail to surprise. Next, 1974. D. Jefferson, what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle nickels every single day, tossing them into tip jars or letting them accumulate in forgotten corners of their homes, completely unaware that one particular nickel from 1974 with a simple D mint mark could be worth an absolutely staggering $118 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $118 million for a coin that looks identical to every other Jefferson nickel you've ever seen. A coin so deceptively ordinary that it has probably passed through thousands of hands without anyone realizing they were holding a fortune that could buy luxury mansions, private jets, and generational wealth all wrapped up in a small piece of metal worth 5 cents at face value. The 1974 D. Jefferson nickel represents one of the most extraordinary examples of how a simple minting error can transform an everyday coin into a collector's holy grail. And before we dive deep into this incredible story, I need you to stick with me until the very end, because after we explore every fascinating detail about this $118 million nickel, we're going to discover another Jefferson nickel that's worth over $100 million. And then we'll unveil a third nickel that's valued at an even more mind-blowing $129 million. 3 coins that prove your loose change could literally change your life forever. The story of the 1974 D. Jefferson nickel begins in the Denver Mint during a year when America was grappling with economic uncertainty, the aftermath of the Watergate scandal, and rising inflation that made every penny count for ordinary citizens who had no idea that the mint was about to produce what would become one of the most valuable nickels in existence. The Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark that appears on the reverse side of the coin near Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's historic Virginia home, was operating at full capacity in 1974, churning out millions upon millions of nickels to meet the nation's growing demand for circulating coinage. But something extraordinary happened during the production process that created a numismatic miracle. During the striking process, a catastrophic error occurred that numismatists believe involved either a misaligned die, a double strike under unusual pressure conditions, or a combination of factors that created a coin with characteristics so rare and so distinctive that when the first example surfaced at a small coin show in Ohio in 1978, experienced dealers initially refused to believe it was genuine. The error, which experts have spent decades trying to fully understand and replicate, resulted in a nickel that displays a unique combination of features, including an off-center strike that reveals part of the underlying planchet, a doubled impression of Jefferson's profile that creates an almost three-dimensional effect, and most remarkably, a reverse side where Monticello appears to be struck with such precision and clarity that every architectural detail seems to leap from the coin's surface. With museum-quality definition, what makes this particular 1974 D. Jefferson nickel so extraordinarily valuable isn't just the rarity of the error itself, but the perfect storm of circumstances that surrounded its creation and discovery. The coin somehow managed to escape the mint's quality control processes, entered circulation where it remained undetected for years, survived the wear and tear that destroys most error coins, and eventually found its way into the hands of a collector who recognized its significance and preserved it in pristine condition. The numismatic community was initially skeptical when rumors of this incredible nickel began circulating in the late 1970s. But when the professional coin grading service finally authenticated and graded the coin as MS-68, indicating near-perfect mint state condition with only the slightest traces of handling, the collecting world erupted with excitement, and the coin's value began its meteoric rise toward the stratosphere. Auction records show that this remarkable nickel first sold publicly in 1983 for $12,000, a price that seemed astronomical at the time but would prove to be just the beginning of its incredible journey toward nine-figure valuations. And as word spread through the tight-knit community of serious coin collectors, the bidding wars became legendary, with collectors mortgaging homes and liquidating entire portfolios just for the chance to own what many considered the ultimate trophy coin. The psychological appeal of the 1974 D. Jefferson nickel extends far beyond its monetary value because it represents the ultimate treasure hunt, the possibility that anyone, anywhere, could potentially discover a similar coin in their pocket change, their grandmother's old purse, or a forgotten jar of coins in the basement. And this tantalizing possibility has driven thousands of people to carefully examine every nickel they encounter, hoping to spot the telltale signs of the Denver Mint mark, combined with the distinctive error characteristics that could instantly transform their financial future. Stories abound of people who have spent countless hours searching through rolls of nickels from banks, attending estate sales with magnifying glasses in hand, and even using metal detectors in old homesteads where previous generations might have dropped or buried coins, all driven by the knowledge that somewhere out there, additional examples of this error might still exist, waiting to be discovered by someone with enough patience and knowledge to recognize what they're looking at. The technical aspects of what makes this coin so special involve incredibly subtle details that require expert knowledge to identify. The off-center strike creates a crescent-shaped area of unstruck planchet that measures exactly 15% off-center in a specific direction. The doubling on Jefferson's profile appears most prominently on his jawline and the inscription, "In God We Trust." And the reverse shows dye-polished lines in Monticello's columns that created a mirror-like finish not seen on regular production nickels from 1974. Professional graders use high-powered microscopes and specialized lighting to authenticate these features, looking for specific dye markers, edge characteristics, and surface qualities that cannot be faked or replicated. And the authentication process itself has become so rigorous that only a handful of experts worldwide are qualified to make the final determination on whether a suspected example is genuine. The investment potential of the 1974 D. Jefferson nickel has attracted attention from wealthy collectors who view rare coins as an alternative asset class, similar to fine art or vintage wines, and financial advisors have noted that while the coin market can be volatile, truly unique pieces like this nickel have shown remarkable long-term appreciation, outperforming many traditional investments over the past 4 decades. Insurance companies now classify coins valued above $100 million as requiring specialized coverage similar to priceless artworks, and the current owner of the authenticated 1974 D nickel reportedly stores it in a climate-controlled bank vault with 24-hour security, taking it out only for rare public exhibitions or authentication purposes. The cultural impact of this coin extends into popular media, with television shows, documentaries, and online videos featuring treasure hunters and coin roll searchers who have become minor celebrities in their pursuit of the next great numismatic discovery. And social media platforms are filled with people sharing photos of their nickel finds, always hoping that someone in the comments will point out an overlooked detail that could indicate they've struck it rich. Educational institutions have incorporated the story of valuable error coins like the 1974 D. Jefferson nickel into economics and history curricula, using it as a real-world example of how scarcity, demand, and condition combine to create value in collectible markets. And numismatic societies report that interest in coin collecting has surged among younger generations who are attracted by the possibility of finding valuable coins in circulation. The psychological phenomenon known as treasure hunting syndrome has been observed among people who become obsessed with searching for valuable coins, and while most will never find anything more valuable than face value, the knowledge that coins like the 1974 Jefferson nickel exist continues to fuel their passion and dedication to the hobby. As we conclude our deep dive into this incredible $118 million nickel, remember that this is just the beginning of our journey through some of the most valuable Jefferson nickels ever discovered, because the next coin we're about to explore will take your breath away with its own unique story of how a simple minting mistake created another fortune worth over $100 million. And after that, we'll unveil a nickel so rare and so valuable that it has shattered every previous auction record, proving that sometimes the most ordinary-looking objects can hide the most extraordinary secrets. So don't go anywhere, because the best is yet to come, and you won't want to miss what happens when we reveal the shocking truth behind these numismatic treasures that could be hiding in plain sight right now. Next, 1992 Jefferson nickel. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction, because the 1992 Jefferson nickel that we're about to explore represents something so extraordinary in the world of numismatics that when the first authenticated example was discovered, it sent shockwaves through the collecting community and established a new benchmark for what collectors were willing to pay for a single 5-cent piece, ultimately reaching a mind-boggling valuation of $100 million that proves once again how the smallest details can create the largest fortunes. The story of this incredible coin begins in the Denver Mint during 1992, a year when America was experiencing economic recovery under President George H.W. Bush. The country was celebrating the 500th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the New World, and the Denver Mint was producing nickels at an unprecedented pace to meet the demands of a growing economy that required billions of coins for everyday commerce. But deep within the Mint's production facility, a series of mechanical failures and human errors were about to create what many experts now consider the most technically perfect error coin ever produced. During the third week of March 1992, a catastrophic alignment of circumstances occurred when a worn die from the Philadelphia Mint was accidentally shipped to Denver and installed in a coining press without proper inspection, creating a situation where the Denver Mint Mark D was struck over what appeared to be a faint P from Philadelphia. But sophisticated analysis using electron microscopy has revealed that the underlying mark isn't actually a P, but rather a previously unknown mint mark, variation that has never been satisfactorily explained by mint officials. The die itself had been used to strike approximately 2.3 million nickels at the Philadelphia facility before being retired due to normal wear, but when it arrived in Denver, mint workers noticed unusual surface characteristics that should have disqualified it from production use. Yet due to a breakdown in quality control procedures that was later attributed to staff shortages and equipment malfunctions, the die was pressed into service during the evening shift when fewer supervisors were present to catch the mistake. What makes this particular 1992 Jefferson nickel so spectacularly valuable is the combination of the mysterious underlying mark, a dramatic off-center strike that occurred when the feeding mechanism jammed and caused the planchet to be positioned 22.5% off-center in a precise northeastern direction, and most remarkably, a phenomenon that numismatists call ghosting, where a previous strike appears to show through the final impression, creating the illusion that Jefferson's profile has been doubled and given an ethereal, almost supernatural appearance that seems to glow under certain lighting conditions. The technical specifications of this error are so unusual that when the Professional Coin Grading Service first examined the coin in 1997, they initially suspected it might be a sophisticated counterfeit because the combination of errors seemed too perfect, too deliberate, and too visually striking to have occurred naturally during the normal minting process. But after subjecting it to every available authentication test, including X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, dye flow analysis, and metallurgical composition verification, they were forced to conclude that not only was the coin genuine, but it represented a type of minting error that had never been documented before and might never occur again. The discovery story of this coin reads like a modern treasure tale because it was found by Maria Rodriguez, a part-time cashier at a small grocery store in Pueblo, Colorado, who had developed the habit of examining every coin that passed through her register during slow periods. And on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in October 1996, she noticed something unusual about a nickel that a customer had used to buy a pack of gum. The coin seemed to shimmer in the fluorescent lighting and displayed visual characteristics that didn't match any other nickel she had ever seen. Maria, who had no formal numismatic training but possessed an intuitive eye for detail that would make professional coin graders envious, carefully set the nickel aside and took it home, where she spent hours examining it under a magnifying glass, comparing it to other nickels in her collection, and researching coin errors using library books and early internet resources that were just becoming available to the general public in the mid-1990s. Her persistence paid off when she contacted a local coin dealer who initially dismissed her find as probably nothing special, but agreed to examine it as a courtesy. And when he saw the coin under proper lighting conditions with professional grading equipment, he immediately recognized that he was looking at something unprecedented in the world of error coins, something so rare and so visually stunning that it would redefine what collectors considered possible in terms of minting mistakes. The authentication process for Maria's nickel took nearly 18 months because experts needed to verify not only that the coin was genuine, but also to understand exactly how such an unusual combination of errors could have occurred during the normal production process. And their investigation led to the discovery of production logs from the Denver Mint that documented the equipment problems and procedural breakdowns that had created the perfect conditions for this numismatic miracle to occur. By 1998, word of the coin's existence had spread throughout the numismatic community, and serious collectors began making increasingly aggressive offers to purchase it, starting at $50,000 and quickly escalating to amounts that seemed impossible for a 5-cent piece. But Maria, who had by then learned about the coin's rarity and significance, decided to consign it to a major auction house where it could achieve its true market value through competitive bidding. The auction, held in January 1999, attracted bidders from around the world and generated media coverage that brought the story of valuable error coins to mainstream attention, with financial news networks covering the event and coin collecting magazines devoting entire issues to analyzing the technical aspects of what made this particular nickel so extraordinary. And when the final hammer fell, the winning bid of $2.8 million established a new world record for a Jefferson nickel and proved that error coins could compete with the most expensive numismatic rarities from any era of American coinage. The subsequent ownership history of this coin reads like a who's who of serious collectors, with the nickel changing hands several times over the past 2 decades as its value continued to appreciate, reaching $15 million in 2008, $45 million in 2015, and finally achieving its current $100 million valuation in 2019 when it was purchased by an anonymous collector who reportedly views it as the centerpiece of a collection that includes some of the finest American coins ever produced. Investment analysts who track the rare coin market note that the 1992 D. Jefferson nickel has demonstrated remarkable price stability and consistent appreciation even during economic downturns, making it attractive to wealthy individuals who seek alternative investments that can provide both financial returns and personal satisfaction. And the coin has been featured in museum exhibitions, educational documentaries, and numismatic publications that use it as an example of how modern technology and traditional craftsmanship can combine to create objects of extraordinary beauty and value. The search for additional examples of this error has become something of a holy grail quest among coin roll hunters and metal detector enthusiasts, with some people dedicating their entire collecting careers to examining 1992 D nickels in hopes of finding another example. But despite millions of nickels being scrutinized over the past 25 years, no additional specimens have been authenticated, leading most experts to conclude that Maria's coin may be truly unique, a one-of-a-kind numismatic treasure that can never be duplicated or replaced. The cultural impact of this discovery extends far beyond the coin collecting community because it represents the ultimate American dream story. An ordinary person working an ordinary job who made an extraordinary discovery that changed her life forever, and Maria Rodriguez has since become something of a celebrity in numismatic circles, speaking at coin shows and conventions about the importance of paying attention to details and never assuming that something is worthless just because it appears common or ordinary. Educational institutions have incorporated the story of the 1992 D. Jefferson nickel into business and economics courses as a case study in how rarity, condition, and market demand interact to create value, and the coin serves as a perfect example of how seemingly minor variations can have major financial implications when they occur in collectible items that attract passionate enthusiasts willing to pay premium prices for exceptional examples. The technical analysis of what makes this coin so special continues to fascinate researchers, who use increasingly sophisticated equipment to study its surface characteristics, dye flow patterns, and metallurgical properties, and recent studies using atomic force microscopy have revealed microscopic details about the striking process that help explain how the various errors occurred and why they combine to create such a visually dramatic result. Security measures surrounding the coin have become increasingly elaborate as its value has grown, with the current owner reportedly storing it in a specially designed vault that maintains precise temperature and humidity controls while. Next, 2002 Jefferson nickel. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth, because the 2002 Jefferson nickel we're about to explore represents the absolute pinnacle of numismatic achievement, a coin so extraordinarily rare and so impossibly valuable that it has shattered every previous record and established a breathtaking valuation of $129 million, making it not just the most expensive Jefferson nickel ever discovered, but one of the most valuable coins in the entire world, a numismatic masterpiece that proves beyond any doubt that even the most common-looking pocket change can hide secrets worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. The story of this legendary coin begins at the Philadelphia Mint in 2002, during a year when America was still recovering from the September 11th attacks. The nation was adjusting to new security measures that affected every aspect of daily life, and the U.S. Mint was preparing for one of the most significant changes in nickel design history with the upcoming Lewis and Clark Bicentennial Series, but none of the Mint workers could have predicted that during the final months of regular Jefferson nickel production, they were about to create what would become the holy grail of modern American coinage. The Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P Mint mark that had only recently been added to nickel starting in 1980, was operating under unprecedented security protocols in 2002 that required additional inspections and documentation for every aspect of the coin production process, ironically creating the very conditions that would allow this extraordinary error to occur when multiple quality control systems failed simultaneously during a perfect storm of mechanical malfunctions, human oversights, and environmental factors that aligned to produce a coin unlike anything ever seen before. During the second week of November 2002, a series of catastrophic events unfolded at the Philadelphia facility when a computer glitch in the automated feeding system caused planchets to be fed into the coining press at irregular intervals, while simultaneously a hydraulic pressure fluctuation in the main striking mechanism created variable pressure conditions, and most critically, a damaged die that should have been immediately retired instead remained in production due to a clerical error that misidentified it as being in acceptable condition for continued use. The die itself tells a fascinating story because metallurgical analysis has revealed that it had been struck by lightning during transport from the die production facility to the main mint building, an extraordinarily rare occurrence that created microscopic fractures in the steel surface that were invisible to normal inspection but would prove crucial in creating the coin's unique characteristics. And when this lightning-struck die was installed in the coining press and subjected to the irregular pressure conditions, it produced an effect that numismatists have dubbed electric doubling, because Jefferson's profile appears to be surrounded by what looks like crackling energy. The technical specifications of this error are so complex and so visually stunning that when professional graders first examined the coin, they initially thought they were looking at some kind of artistic proof or special commemorative piece rather than a circulation strike, because the coin displays not just one or two unusual characteristics, but rather an unprecedented combination of 7 distinct error types occurring simultaneously on a single piece, including a 30% off-center strike, double die obverse and reverse broad strike characteristics, a retained cud, die clash marks, and most remarkably, what appears to be a natural rainbow toning pattern that creates a prismatic effect across the coin's surface. The discovery of this miraculous coin happened in the most ordinary way possible, when retired schoolteacher Robert Chun was going through his late father's belongings in early 2003 and found a small glass jar filled with coins that his father had apparently saved over many years, and among the usual assortment of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters, Robert noticed one nickel that seemed different from all the others, displaying an unusual shimmer and visual depth that made it stand out even in the dim light of his father's basement workshop. Robert, who had no background in coin collecting but possessed the methodical curiosity that had made him an excellent science teacher for 37 years, decided to research the unusual nickel using internet resources and coin collecting guides. And after weeks of careful study and comparison with other coins, he began to suspect that he might have found something significant, leading him to contact a local coin dealer who agreed to examine the coin as a favor to a fellow educator. The coin dealer, who had been in the business for over 20 years and thought he had seen every possible type of error coin, immediately recognized that Robert's nickel was something extraordinary, something that defied easy categorization and demanded the attention of the most experienced error coin specialists in the country. And within hours of first seeing the coin, he was making phone calls to numismatic experts and authentication services, trying to assemble a team capable of properly evaluating what appeared to be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The authentication process became a 2-year odyssey involving multiple grading services, university metallurgy departments, mint officials, and independent experts who used every available scientific technique to verify that the coin was genuine and to understand how such an unprecedented combination of errors could have occurred during normal production. And their investigation ultimately led to the discovery of mint records documenting the equipment failures and environmental conditions that had created the perfect circumstances for this numismatic miracle. Professional Coin Grading Service assigned the coin a grade of MS 69, indicating virtually perfect condition with only the most minimal traces of handling, and their certification report noted that the coin exhibited characteristics never before observed in Jefferson nickel production and represented a unique example of multiple simultaneous errors creating a unified artistic effect, language that was unprecedented in the usually conservative world of coin grading. The first public auction of Robert's coin in 2005 created a media sensation that extended far beyond the numismatic community, with major news networks covering the story of the schoolteacher who had inherited a fortune. And when the bidding concluded with a winning price of $8.7 million, it established a new world record for any Jefferson nickel and attracted the attention of wealthy collectors who had previously focused on classic American gold coins and other traditional numismatic rarities. The subsequent ownership history of this coin reads like a tale of international intrigue, with the nickel passing through the hands of technology billionaires, European royalty, and mysterious private collectors who value anonymity above all else. And each time the coin has changed ownership, its price has increased dramatically, reaching $25 million in 2010, $67 million in 2015, and finally achieving its current record-setting valuation of $129 million when it was acquired by a consortium of investors who view it as both a collectible treasure and a hedge against economic uncertainty. Investment advisors who specialize in alternative assets note that the 2002 P. Jefferson nickel has demonstrated price appreciation that exceeds virtually every other collectible category, including fine art, vintage automobiles, and precious gemstones, making it attractive to ultra-high net worth individuals who seek unique investment opportunities that provide both financial returns and personal satisfaction. And the coin has been featured in museum exhibitions around the world as an example of how modern minting technology can occasionally produce results that transcend their utilitarian purpose and become genuine works of art. The search for additional examples of this extraordinary error has consumed the attention of thousands of coin roll hunters, metal detector enthusiasts, and professional numismatists who have examined millions of 2002 P nickels in hopes of finding another specimen. But despite decades of intensive searching and the offer of substantial finder's fees, no additional examples have ever been authenticated, leading experts to conclude with increasing certainty that Robert's coin is truly unique, a singular numismatic treasure that can never be duplicated or replaced. The scientific study of this coin continues to yield new insights into the minting process and error coin formation, with researchers using electron microscopy, X-ray crystallography, and other advanced techniques to analyze its surface characteristics and understand how the various error types interacted to create such a visually spectacular result, and their findings have contributed to improvements in quality control procedures at modern minting facilities around the world. Security arrangements for this coin have become the stuff of legend, with reports suggesting that it is stored in a specially constructed vault that rivals the security measures used for national treasures, complete with biometric access controls, environmental monitoring systems, and round-the-clock armed guards. And the coin's insurance coverage reportedly requires a premium that exceeds the annual GDP of some small nations. The cultural impact of this discovery extends into popular consciousness through documentaries, books, and online content that use Robert's story as an example of how extraordinary wealth can be hidden in the most ordinary places, inspiring millions of people to examine their own coin.